lost media is such a fascinating thing, no matter what it is. It could be like physical lost media, horror lost media that never existed, lost media for video games, etc., etc. But my favorite kind of lost media is for music. Of course, the biggest one being Ulterior Motives. That was my favorite case, and I love that song, listen to it all the time whenever I can. But what if I told you that your favorite band could have lost media? Of course, a big example is Green Day and Deftones. Green Day with their album that they lost and ended up making American Idiot instead. And Deftones, well, I forgot, but that's besides the point. But you may not know that Oasis has lost media. Now, granted, I did make a video about Nebworth, and I did say in that video that technically it was lost media, but there's actually other lost media that you guys might not know about. Now, technically this is also a two-parter, as there's a lot more lost media that the band has that I will be getting into in the next video, which probably won't be soon because the next video is going to be a movie review, so stay tuned for that. Anyways, join me as we talk about all of the Oasis lost media that there is, some being lost, some being found, and some being partially lost and partially found. It's lost media. I don't know what you guys expected. The first piece of lost media we'll be getting into is Oasis' debut album, Definitely Maybe. Definitely Maybe is a debut album that was released on August 29th of 1994, which, hey, wait a minute, is the anniversary coming up? Huh. Son of a bitch. Stay tuned for another video. Anyways, upon its release, it became the fastest-selling debut album in the UK until the Spice Girls' debut album, Spice, surpassed it by just, 2 years later. Not only was the album a commercial success, it was also a critical success with press around the band starting in February of 1994, following an ill-fated trip to Amsterdam that led the whole band, except for Noel, to get arrested and deported back to Manchester, which they do mention that in the Supersonic documentary, so yeah. The album's main sessions began in January of 1994 and went through a tumultuous development before its release, and in the over 30 years since its release, the original sessions for the album have actually gone lost.
What the fuck? No!
Let me explain. The earliest known session to make it into Definitely Maybe was for the track of Shaker Maker, having been recorded at the now destroyed Out of the Blue Studios in Manchester on October of 1993. The band signed with Alan McGee's Creation Records after he saw them perform a 4-song set at King Tut's Wawa Hut in Glasgow, Scotland on May 31st, 1993. After gigging and building up an attention, they booked into Pink Museum Studios to start recording their debut single on December 19th of 1993. Originally, Bring It On Down was going to be the song recorded, but it was rejected by Noel due to Tony's drumming during the sessions. Yeah, a separate video at some point is going to be the fact that Noel don't like any drummer, bro. He don't like none. This would continue to be a problem, as the rest of the sessions at the Pink Museum didn't really go great because Tony's drumming became an issue that kept bothering Noel. After penning it in 30 minutes, Supersonic would wind up being recorded and released as their debut single 4 months later. On January 8th of 1994, Oasis began the main album sessions at Mono Valley Studios in Wales with producer Dave Batchelor, who Noel knew when he was a roadie for the Inspirational Carpets, or the Inspiro Carpets, whatever, and sound engineer Dave Scott in December of 1993, and started recording sessions for the album. During those sessions, which included a stoned Liam, a stoned Bonehead, a stoned Tony, and Paul Ashby meeting with Ian Brown of the Stone Roses at Rockfield Studio, just a few minutes away from Monroe Valley, 9 songs were recorded along with 4 Rolling Stones covers, and the band went back on the road. During the recording of the song Slide Away, Scott was fired after clashing with him over the tempo of the song. One of the takes ended up being on the released album, but among the numerous re-recordings of the song that were done, one was apparently 10 minutes long and, according to Scott, was recorded at the same pace as Comfortably Numb by Pink Floyd. After the sessions were mixed, they were rejected by the label and Batchelor was fired by the band soon after. The band did try again to re-record the album at Sawmill Studios in Cornwall in February of 1994, and this time the session did not have a producer. It was just the band and their new sound engineer Mark Coyle. The sessions were once again rejected by the label, and in a last-ditch effort, the band's manager Marcus Russell contacted an up-and-coming Welsh producer Owen Morris and gave him the freedom by remixing all of the Sawmill sessions. The label couldn't afford another recording session, but Morris did get Liam to re-record some of the vocals, resulting in much better takes that was, better than what was already recorded. Morris mastered the sessions at Matrix recording studios in Fulham, and after the numerous rejections from the label, they approved the mixes and the album saw its release that August. And, well, the rest is history. If you take a look over here, these are all the songs. This is like the mono version, the Sawmill version, and the Pink Museum version. Obviously, some of these songs are found. It says here that it's non-existent for Sawmill if there's a version for Shaker Maker. And then for Slide Away, like I said, there's a lost 10 minutes. I don't know where that will ever be. Whatever and Fade Away and I Am the Walrus are the ones that are kind of confusing because we don't know if there is existing productions for the mono and Pink Museum version. So, and for the, other version as well. Since the album's release was made of rejected recording sessions and fresh vocals, many of the OG sessions of Definitely Maybe have not resurfaced. Slide Away actually ended up being the only song from the rejected Mono Valley sessions to have even made it onto a release album, and today is regarded as one of the band's best songs. The Mono Valley of Bring It On Down was included as a bonus track on the 2014 Japanese re-release of Definitely Maybe, and can be found on YouTube. In October of 2016, a documentary on the band's 1990s heyday, titled Oasis Supersonic, was released, and when the Mono Valley sessions were brought up, a snippet of the Mono Valley version of Cigarettes and Alcohol can be heard. Also included in the documentary was a rare early version of the bonus track Sad Song with Liam on vocals. It only contains the first verse and chorus, although it's unknown if a full version was made, and it's unknown which session it was recorded during. 2 months later, the sessions recorded at the Pink Museum were leaked online entitled The Whitfield Street Sessions, and the leak included a take of the B-side Fade Away and future standalone single Whatever. An early demo of Whatever exists on YouTube, having been uploaded by a fan in June 2008, although it's unknown which recording session this rendition originates from. In January of 2023, material originating from the Sawmill studio sessions were also leaked online and featured an unreleased studio version of the band's cover of I Am the Walrus, which only a live recording was released on the Cigarettes and Alcohol single. It was revealed in 2024 that the Mono Valley sessions would be released on the 3rd anniversary issue of the album, including both new takes from Sawmills and a demo version of Sad Song from late 1992, which is presumably the same one briefly heard in Supersonic. In July of 2024, the Mono Valley version of Up in the Sky was released as a single, followed by the Mono Valley version of Columbia. On August 30th, 2024, the 30th anniversary deluxe edition of the album was released, including the full Mono Valley sessions, rendering most of Definitely Maybe's sessions to be found, with the only exception, if it still exists, being the long version of Slide Away. The next piece of lost media isn't really necessarily Oasis themed, but it is about Liam, so I wanted to count this regardless. I didn't want to make a separate video about this because that's a lot of work, so I'm going to put in this video. Liam Gallagher, As It Was a 2019 documentary film directed by Gavin Fitzgerald and Charlie Lightning, and it details the former frontman of Oasis through his post-Oasis band Beady Eye and his rise as a solo artist. It contained interviews with collaborators, former bandmates, and family members who know him, and features some of Liam's best performing songs from post-Oasis. The documentary received positive reviews, and its release coincided with the release of his second album, Why Me, Why Not?, which was released 3 months after the documentary came out and was met with praises from listeners. While the documentary makes mentions of his time in Oasis and uses footage from his time in the band, the documentary uses music from, Beady Eye instead and Liam's solo career, and no songs from Oasis were used. On February 14th of 2019, Liam announced on Twitter that his documentary was complete, and just 4 days later, he tweeted that he might be sued by his brother Noel if the documentary uses any Oasis music. While the latter tweet may come as a reminder that no Oasis music will be featured in the film, it appears that it wasn't always the case. At the premiere of the documentary in June of 2019, Liam said on the question of if Noel saw the film, and replied with, "I think he has seen it, him and his little people have seen it, and took the Oasis music out of it because that's all he's got left for me. Let him get on with it." Which means that the documentary that was released was not the first cut, and the first cut had Oasis music in it. While this does confirm that an early cut of the documentary with the Oasis songs existed, no footage from this cut of the documentary has surfaced, and it's highly unlikely that any will. Well, unless, probably could, because they're getting along now. Wouldn't hurt. In 1992, just after a year of forming the band Rain, Oasis had gotten the chance to play for a regional TV show. The performance took place on July 18th of 1992 for an event called the Blackpool Roadshow, who had won a contract to supply programming for the annual ITV telethon. The nature of this broadcast has remained a mystery. However, due to sparse and sometimes misleading information regarding the broadcast, a huge example being Tony McCarroll's book about Oasis, where he mistakenly refers to this event as the Granada Red Nose Day 1983, even though it was being broadcast in the BBC. Like, the fuck? Anyways, in 2011, some members of the Missing Episodes forum confirmed that the dates of the Oasis performance was actually 1992 and not 1983 like Tony said in his book. And it was also later confirmed by a fax sent by Bonehead that was auctioned off alongside the tape they mimed along during the performance. According to Tony McCarroll from his book, Oasis performed at the Granada Studios using Alvin Stardust, the host's gear. After a few drinks at the Rover's Return pub, a replica which had been recreated for the Granada studio tour, they went on stage to a small audience of about 12 Granada staff, some members from the Salvation Army, and a local school choir, some of who were supposedly frightened by Liam's aggressive stare, which, listen, I don't blame them. Because have you seen the way he looks at people? It's not even just the eyebrows. Like, is he looking left or is he looking right? Anyways, a short while later, the cameras began to record and the host, Alvin Stardust, came out introducing Oasis as having just flown back to be with us from their tour, to which Liam replied, "We've just come from Burnage, dickhead. We ain't on fucking tour," causing the crowd to laugh at the frontman, who just stared the host off stage, and the band began to mime along to a tape of their early song, Take Me, which I love that song, by the way, banger. After the performance, the band began to wrap their crew and head off stage where they were almost hit by a Jeep, which is crazy, and this caused Liam to be annoyed and shout, "The fuck you think you're doing, dickhead?" To which the driver, actor Simon Gregson, replied with an obscene gesture. Upon seeing this, Liam was being Liam, and, I'm really curious about this footage, if it even exists. Speaking of the footage as to, it doesn't exist or whatever, in 2015, filmmakers of the documentary Oasis, the rock and roll band that defined a generation, which later became Oasis Supersonic, asked the public to help find the footage of the performance. However, no footage of the performance was submitted, and when the documentary was released a year later, the performance is absent. Apart from 2 pictures taken by Bonehead's sister, no material of this event has surfaced online. Which low-key kind of sucks, because this would have been so cool. There's radio audio footage technically, but the footage is still lost, so, by all sensibility in some way, it's still lost. It's not found, it's just lost. Don't Believe the Truth was the 5th album that Oasis made, that was released on May 30th of 2005, so, a year after I was born. May 30th, I was 1 year old. critical and commercial success and was seen as a return to form for the band after the reception of their previous 3 albums, Be Here Now, Standing on the Shoulder of Giants, and Heathen Chemistry, which, fun fact, I need 2 of those albums, and I think you can guess which one it is. Obviously, Be Here Now and Heathen Chemistry. Then I'm complete with Oasis except for live albums. So, yeah, it's after the reception that their albums got, and also their set at Glastonbury in the previous years, was panned by critics and fans. The album that was released was produced by Dave Sardy, who would later produce the band's final album, as well as Noel's debut solo album, and, fun fact though, he wasn't actually the first choice to produce the album. Originally, the electronic music group Death in Vegas were hired to produce the album in December of 2003 after Liam did a guest vocal for the duo's song Scorpio Rising for the album of the same name. To date, the duo's most successful song is that song, and was impressed on the duo's producing of the track. So, production on the album began after Alan was fired in 2004 at Sawmill Studios in January in Cornwall, and lasted 3 weeks, which, fun fact, did not know that. Still wasn't born yet, though, but I'm sorry, Whitey. 10 songs are known to have been recorded during those 3 weeks, and among those are Turn Up the Sun, Mucky Fingers, and The Meaning of Soul, as well as The Bell Will Ring, Love Like a Bomb, and Eyeball Tickler. However, Noel was satisfied with what was recorded, saying that 6 of those songs were not good enough to make B-sides. Wait, shouldn't I say wasn't satisfied? Whoever wrote this Lost Media article, whatever. Right, so because of that, and due to the duo's commitments of making their album Satan Circus and the launch of their own record company, Drone Labels, or Drone Records, they were fired as producers in March of 2004. And after performing at the Pool, Lighthouse, and Glastonbury, the band regrouped in July of 2004 to re-record the album with Noel producing this time, before eventually they decided to hire Sardy instead to produce the album, and the album met its May 2005 release date after numerous delays. In May of 2005, 5 of the tracks recorded from the Death in Vegas sessions, Turn Up the Sun, The Meaning of Soul, Love Like a Bomb, Eye Tickler, and Bell Will Ring, were actually leaked on YouTube. Mucky Fingers and the other 4 unnamed tracks recorded during the Death in Vegas sessions have yet to resurface, which, of course, makes this partially lost. Later with Jools Holland is a British music show that premiered on the BBC Two on October 8th of 1992. It's one of the few music programs that not only still air after 30 years, but also don't feature artists lip-syncing or miming to their performances. It's a spin-off of the BBC Two's The Late Show and hosted by its namesake pianist Jools Holland, and the show hosts a large variety of up-and-coming artists as well as well-known established artists from a variety of genres. Since its debut in 1992, it's been broadcasted in various different countries around the world, like the United States, Canada, Australia, Germany, Spain, France, and Belgium. And on various occasions, the show would do specials focusing on a certain artist, with an exclusive set being performed for the special. One of these specials was for Oasis in the 2000s. The special was filmed on February 11th of the 2000s, and would air on April Fool's Day that same year. Unlike the other artist-focused specials the show has done, this one is significant for various reasons. You see, it's the first time the band has performed in the UK since the UK leg of their Be Here Now tour that ended in December of 1987. It's also the first performance to include Jem and Andy, who replaced Bonehead and Giggsy, who left the band the year prior. The first performance of several songs from their then upcoming album, Standing on the Shoulder of Giants, which would be released 3 weeks after the performance, was recorded, which would include Go Let It Out, Who Feels Love, Where Did It All Go Wrong, Sunday Morning Call, and Gas Panic, and the first performance of Rock and Roll Star since 1985. They also performed a cover of The Who's My Generation, which would only be performed once for the tour of Standing on the Shoulder of Giants, before disappearing from the set list during the Japanese leg of the tour. But it would return to the set list in 2002, and it would be performed for every single gig until the end of Don't Believe the Truth tour in 2006. Now, I know you're probably wondering what makes this performance lost. Well, here's why. See, these are all the songs that have been found so far, but over here we have some songs that are lost, like Acquiesce, Sunday Morning Call. Oh, wait, actually, that's the only songs that are lost. Oh, so they found everything else, they just couldn't find these 2 songs. Before the special aired, the performance of Live Forever was included on the March 29, 2000s edition of Top of the Pops 2 as promotion for the upcoming special, along with a note stating that the song won't be in the special. But aside from Live Forever, Acquiesce and Sunday Morning Call were also cut from the special, likely due to time constraints. While the whole special, along with the episode of Top of the Pops 2, with the Live Forever performance can be found today, the full performance remains lost, well, partially lost. Bootlegs from the Standing on the Shoulder of Giants era of Oasis are very common and have appeared online quite a lot, though their full performance of Later Presents with Oasis has not turned up. You know it's getting good when they mark it as NSFW. Wait, why would that mean it's getting good? Man, there's something wrong with me! The Don't Believe the Truth tour was a concert tour by Oasis to support their 6th album, Don't Believe the Truth, which was released a month into the tour on May 30th of 2005. After a less than positive reception of their previous 3 albums, and the band said at Glastonbury the previous year being the worst received gig of their career, which one day we will talk about. Don't worry. The album spelled a huge comeback for the band, as it was the band's first album to receive universal praise, since What's the Story Morning Glory a decade earlier. The tour would also be the band's most successful, as it came and went without any incidents like the previous tours had, so no fighting, no nothing, you know, all that stuff. And among the tour's highlights were performances of Madison Square Garden, Hollywood Bowl, the V Festival, and the City of Manchester Stadium, which, fun fact, V Festival 2005 is my favorite performance because of Morning Glory. I freaking love how they do it, bro. The tour was announced on November 2nd of 2004 with gigs at the City of Manchester Stadium on July 2nd, the Hampden Stadium in Glasgow on June 29th, and the Milton Keynes National Bowl on July 9th being among the highlighted dates, and they went on sale November 6th and sold out just within 3 hours. Another day was added for the City of Manchester Stadium on July 3rd and Milton Keynes Bowl on July 10th after the tickets were sold out, and an extra date for City of Manchester Stadium was added for June 30th. Prior to the Manchester gigs, in a Don't Believe the Truth pre-release fan club postcard mailing, it was announced that Channel 4 will be broadcasting the show live on July 3rd. At the time of the announcement, it wasn't exactly clear whether it would be a live broadcast of the July 3rd gig or the July 2nd gig, the latter of which was being filmed for a quote-unquote DVD release. If it was going to be released for what was originally announced as a live broadcast, then this would be the second time one of the band's gigs was broadcasted live on TV, as their disastrous second night at Wembley Stadium was broadcasted live on Sky One, while Liam was drunk throughout the whole performance, leaving out some lyrics, replacing some lyrics, and even told the crowd that the band wouldn't play if they didn't see boobs on the venue's screen. Yeah, I kind of remember that. Let's move on. The Manchester gigs were a huge success outside of an incident that occurred during the band's first song of the set, Turn Up the Sun, as the venue's barrier that was keeping the crowd away from the stage had collapsed and the band had to stop the song so that it could be fixed, with no stating to the crowd, "Alright, look, I've been told the barrier at the front has broken down, so if everyone can just take 1 or 2 steps back, we'll start playing again. Otherwise, we can't go on with the show. If anybody does get injured, though, make sure they get a fucking t-shirt on their way out." The stoppage lasted 25 minutes, and during that time, Liam joked that, "I bet you don't get this at Live Aid," which Live Aid was actually screened to the venue prior to the band walking on stage. And Noel told several jokes to the crowd that urged the fans to sing, "Who the fuck are Man UTD?" which I think is Manchester United, but whatever. And then Liam shouted, "Let's just get somebody in the crowd to get their tits out," which... Oh, and they also ended this by saying, "You wouldn't get this at a Coldplay concert, would you?" How drunk were they during this gig? I gotta know, how drunk, bro? Now, the announced broadcast did not actually show up on Channel 4's listing for July 3rd, and just 6 days later, the previously mentioned film July 2nd gig was aired on Channel 4, and all but Bring It On Down, Morning Glory, and Champagne Supernova, and Guess God Thinks I'm Able were aired. Part of the 25-minute stoppage was shown in the broadcast, but some of the jokes were told, and the ladies flashing were obviously cut. The DVD release of the July 2nd gig was recorded for what would come out as a special feature on the DVD DVD release of the band's documentary in 2007, Lord Don't Slow Me Down, which is actually a documentary about the tour, which can be found online with a collection of videos taken by audience members, which also includes snippets of the songs not included in the special feature. Bootlegs of the June 30th and July 3rd gigs can be found online, but the rest of the professionally shot footage of the July 2nd gigs have now resurfaced. Interestingly, though, there does exist an audience recording of the gig, but it became unavailable after 2011, before resurfacing on sadsong.net on March 31st of 2023, and a recording of Liam Gallagher's IEM feed is also confirmed to exist. But as of the writing of the Lost Media Wiki article, the rest of the professionally shot footage of the July 2nd gig at the City of Manchester Stadium remains lost. This next piece of lost media was also to promote a tour, the Heathen Chemistry one in 2002, and their headlining gigs at Finsbury Park. So, prior to the tour's warm-up gigs, which included them being at Coachella, alright, you know what? Whatever. The band had a bit of a setback when the yet-to-be-released Heathen Chemistry album was leaked on the internet.
What the fuck? No!
This was just 3 days, or like 3 weeks before their gig at the Joint in Las Vegas. And the band found out that the album was leaked when the audiences at the April 26th gig at the Joint were singing the lyrics to the yet-to-be-released songs, which were debuted at the gig after being played during the 10 Years of Noise and Confusion tour in the UK. And it wouldn't be until December of 2003 when they found out that their drummer, Alan White, or Whitey, had a copy of the album, and it ended up in the hands of the unidentified NME reporter, which is actually what resulted in him being fired, I think? I didn't know that, but this made the Heathen Chemistry album and tour his last one with the band. The gigs at Finsbury Park were originally for July 5th and 6th, but the tickets for those gigs were sold out within 2 hours of going on sale March 2nd, and another night on July 7th was added, which also sold out quickly. The band was offered to play Glastonbury that year, but turned it down to play the Finsbury Park gigs, which include the Charlatans, Black Rebel Motorcycle Club, The Quarrel, and Proud Mary. Now, despite bad weather during the July 5th gig, the trio of gigs were a huge success, and by the time the July 7th gig came along, Heathen Chemistry landed at number 1 on the UK charts, while the tour was also including like other festival appearances like Tea in the Park and the Girton Festival, and the last 6 gigs of the tour getting postponed into March 2003 because, well, Liam and Alan got into a bar fight at a nightclub. They didn't fight each other, they got involved in a fight. So the Finsbury Park gigs remain the highlight of the Trouble tour and is a favorite among fans. Bootleg audio recordings of the gigs have circulated online over the years, and among the bootlegs is an XFM broadcast of the July 7th gig. The recording is currently the highest quality recording of any of the gigs to have surfaced in full. A video for the July 7th performance of Little by Little was released on the DVD single of Little by Little and features a lot of clips of the 3 gigs, or from the 3 gigs, and it would later be released on disc 3 of the compilation album Time Flies, 1984-2009, in 2010 along with other music videos from the band's career. The audio of that performance of Little by Little will be released on the Don't Believe in the Truth bonus CD and the Daily Mirror in 2005. As of right now, though, the previously mentioned music video is currently all the footage from the Finsbury Park gigs that is available. You know, I'm starting to notice that, like, some of these, like, lost media things were, like mainly connected to Heathen Chemistry or Don't Believe in the Truth, which I'm not complaining, but I'm just now realizing that there's a lot of lost media for these specifically, even though it's, like, the 2000s, but then again, the 2000s has a lot of lost media, so I guess I shouldn't judge. Right, so the Heathen Chemistry tour was a concert tour for the 5th album Heathen Chemistry, which was released 2 weeks into the tour on July 1st of 2002. This album was not very well received, although some say that it's better than Standing on the Shoulder of Giants, and to this day, it's not the most highly regarded in the band's catalog, which, side tangent? I'm so sick of people trashing on standing on the shoulder of giants, bro. Stop. Anyways, the tour in support of the album would be another successful tour for the band, though it was not safe from various incidents, with the most highlighted incident on tour being the numerous times that Liam left the stage during the band's set due to his voice giving out, which, yeah, also wasn't this like around the time when Noel got in that car accident? Whatever, let's just keep going. The first time on the tour that his voice gave out was during the tour's first US gig in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and Noel ended up doing 8 songs from the band's usual set after Liam left the stage, and an acoustic set of songs from the band's back catalog would fill the void of songs that Liam would sing in the set. The other 2 times that his voice gave out were in Aberdeen, Scotland on September 10th, and also Fukuoka, Japan on October 1st, with Liam only making it through the first 3 quarters of the former before his voice gave out. However, the gig didn't get off to a good start to begin with. After the first song of the set, Hello, Liam spotted 2 girls in the crowd talking during the song and told them to shut the fuck up, and was quoted in saying, "If you want to talk, go to a fucking Travis show," which I don't know what that means. Liam later informed the crowd that he didn't like this talking between song shite, and his voice eventually gave out during Better Man, and Noel had to finish the song after being concerned about Liam, which, well, yeah, it's his brother. And after the song, Liam informed the crowd that his throat was knackered before going into Acquiesce. And after Acquiesce, the band left the stage, and Noel returned with a chair and an acoustic guitar and informed the crowd that Liam was not coming back, before launching into an encore that included the master plan on the acoustic, Don't Look Back in Anger with the rest of the band, and end the show with an acoustic rendition of Wonderful, or Wonderwall, which is one of a handful of times that the song was performed on the tour. Now, this one I actually know about. There's this channel I follow on YouTube that likes to upload like bootlegs or like audio recordings of Oasis gigs, and I'm pretty sure I remember seeing this one. So, bootlegs of these 2 gigs can be easily found online, though only a handful of those bootlegs were above soundboard quality. The Aberdeen gig was recorded from the soundboard, and sections of the gig were aired on Clyde won his promotion for the Brayhead Arena gigs in November of 2002. To keep the broadcast within the 1-hour time slot, Hello, Hung in a Bad Place, Columbia, Born on a Different Cloud, Better Man, and Force of Nature were trimmed. References to talking during songs, aside from a quote from Liam just before Acquiesce, and Liam's throat recording or giving out whatever, they were all cut, is my main point. A recording of the Clyde 1 broadcast has since resurfaced online, albeit in poor quality, with some YouTube uploads of the recording having its speed fixed. The fully soundboard recording of the gig has not resurfaced outside of the Clyde 1 broadcast, and the aforementioned broadcast is all that's surfaced of the recording. Okay, 2 more left. We can do this. The Be Here Now tour was a concert tour by Oasis in support of their 3rd album, Be Here Now, which was released 2 weeks before the start of the tour on August 21st of 1997. Anticipation for the album was through the roof after the success of their 2nd album, What's the Story Morning Glory, and rumors of the band breaking up following the sour conclusion of the Morning Glory tour that began circulating, with performances at KROQ's Weenie Roast and the opening slots of U2's Pop Mart tours, and reports of journalists singing gag orders emerging in the media did nothing but intensify the anticipation for the album. And when it was released, it was of course met with some positive reception, but over the course of the tour reception, it just grew negative, with Magic Pie apparently being called the worst Oasis song of all time, which I'm sure that changed at some point, but by the end of the tour in March of 1998, the band began to attract negative press for their drug-fueled antics on the tour, with some antics almost landing Liam in jail, but hey, what's new? Potato, tomato, tomato, tomato. I made a whole video about this. There's no need to go on about it. You may know if you watched my video about Be Here Now that they took so much drugs. Oh my god, the amount of times I said coke in that video is just a lot. Outside of the drug-fueled debauchery surrounding the tour hosted some gigs that are held in high regards with fans, like in Newcastle, Glasgow, Dublin, New York, Chicago, and of course Manchester. The 2 gigs at the GMX in Manchester, however, on December 13th and 14th are considered the highlights of the tour, as they were professionally recorded, with the second night being broadcasted on MTV under the title Oasis All Around the World. Footage of that night's performance of Acquiesce would later be used for the song's first music video. The whole footage of the MTV broadcast of the concert, as well as the soundboard bootleg of the gig, can of course be easily found today. Though, strangely, no footage or audio from the first night has resurfaced. Only a small number of photos from the first night can be found. But it was speculated that the first night wasn't even recorded. But Matt Coyd, who was the hothead technician for the MTV broadcast, revealed in an email exchange with Live Forever Use Oasis Cam in July 2009 that we shot both nights as the first night being a test recording in case anything went wrong with this broadcast the next night. This not only confirms that the first night was recorded professionally, but would be echo for what would happen at their gigs at Wembley Stadium 3 years later, where the first night was professionally recorded as a test just in case anything happened, and then of course the next night went wrong with Liam, being drunk and sabotaging the gig on purpose. It was just bad. I do have the DVD of Wembley Night 1. We all do. It's classic, but yeah. So while the broadcast for the second night has never been re-aired or re-released since its initial, MTV broadcast, clips shared by the band on the album's 25th anniversary in 2022 suggest that they are all in possession of all footage from the tour, including the GMX gigs. As of the writing of this Lost Media article, though, no audio or clips of the first night can be found. Now we're on to our final piece of lost media. In October of 2001, the band went on a cross-country week-long tour to celebrate their 10th anniversary, entitled 10 Years of Noise and Confusion. The tour would also serve as the last leg of the band's chaotic tour to support their 4th album, Standing on the Shoulder of Giants, which was released in February of 2000. Unlike prior tours, however, the band performed in small venues, like smaller ones on the tour since prior to the tour, because they weren't able to perform in smaller venues due to their rising popularity brought on by the success of their first 3 albums. Definitely Maybe, What's the Story, Morning Glory, and Be Here Now. So, as a result, they only performed in large venues like the Earl's Court, Main Road, and most famously, Nebworth. This specific tour would also be the band's shortest at only 6 dates at 3 venues: Shepherd's Bush Empire, Manchester Apollo, and the Barrowlands. And while it may be the shortest in dates, they were the longest concert at nearly 2 hours, and the set lists had a mix of songs that were performed on the new album and the tour of Brotherly Love, and other songs that haven't been performed since, they made their other albums and stuff, and also teasing 2 new songs from their yet-to-be-released album, Heathen Chemistry. Once again, we have a song list of all the songs played in specific places. As we can see, Hindu Times is lost, Live Forever is lost, Hung in a Bad Place is partially found, and, that's about it actually. Right, so the October 13th gig at the Barrowlands in Glasgow was recorded and aired as a special entitled Oasis 10 Years of Noise and Confusion on the now defunct Skybox Office the next day, along with an interview with Noel and Liam. Despite the special being exclusive to Skybox Office, the special did air on several music channels in the UK or on several unidentified dates. Only 3 songs from the concert were cut from the special: The Hindu Times, Live Forever, and Hung in a Bad Place. The Hindu Times and Hung in a Bad Place were likely cut because they were new songs, but the reason why they cut Live Forever is, well, unknown. An audience recording of the full gig is confirmed to have existed, but it has not surfaced online as of the writing of this article. A couple of clips of Hung in a Bad Place were used in an interview with Noel, Jem, and Liam that was released on a CD-ROM with several copies of Heathen Chemistry. The song Columbia from the Barrowlands gig was included as a B-side on the Heathen Chemistry single Songbird that was released in February of 2003. With the band's former appearance in an interview released by the band's label Big Brother Recordings and Columbia's appearance on the Songbird single, it's likely that the band's label is in possession of the full recording of the gig, but since the band's output during the 2000s has been largely overshadowed by their 1990s output, it's unlikely that the full concert will ever resurface at all. But on January 30th of 2023, it was announced that the, performance would come to Paramount Plus on February 22nd. However, it was the Skybox special that was added and not the full performance, so they lied.
That's it? That's the last episode? That was just a bunch of cheap walk cycles!
What a rip.
SpongeBob betrayed us!
And that is the whole video. But this isn't the last of my Oasis videos. We have 3 coming. 4 if you count me talking about more lost media, but mainly 3. Live 25, Dig Out Your Soul, and Definitely Maybe. I'll see you all in the next videos.